Recording in progress.
Good afternoon. We welcome you to the Provo Municipal Council meeting this Tuesday, July 22nd at 2:30 p.m. We'll begin with our roll call, starting with Councilor Christensen.
Councilor Christensen.
George Handley.
Rachel Whipples.
Gary Garrett.
Patrice McKay.
Becky Bogdan.
And Councilor Hoban is excused. He will probably join us shortly. We also welcome Mayor Kapusi. Appreciate your joining. And we want to give a minute to Councilor Handley to introduce some special guests.
Yes, I wanted to introduce my friends. This is Ali and Mariam Tagdera from Iran.
Very pleased to welcome
Yeah. Ali is a distinguished translator of American literature. Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson are two of the authors that he's been translating, and he is going to be speaking at BYU tomorrow.
And a translator of poem Water.
He is also a translator of something I wrote. And he is, I just thought it would be a really rare and wonderful opportunity for them to
It is for
observe
us.
a city council meeting happening in America. So they're here for a few more weeks in the country. They're traveling around for several lectures, and then they'll be returning shortly in early August.
That's what it is.
Anyway.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Councilor Handley. A wonderful opportunity for us to also welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's proposed that we approve the minutes from the July 28th work meeting. Are there any objections or requested changes at this time? If not, I'll declare the minutes approved by unanimous consent. Next, we have our first item of business is an ordinance amending the consolidated fee schedule to add a congressional expedite passport postage fee. This will be presented by get my glasses. Brittany Densley, our call center manager.
We're getting old.
Brindley.
Hi, thank you for having me. So I'm Brittany Dunsley. I'm the call center manager for customer service, and I'm happy to be here. So a little background with this is we started accepting passport applications back in about 2018. We started with 20 to 30 a month, and now in our peak months, we're at about over 200 applications. So it's pretty cool. We've got about 6 passport agents that do all that work for us. What's really cool is we had the Western Passport Agency come and ask us if we would be one of 2 agencies in Utah to take congressional expedite passports. And we jumped at that opportunity. They came in and trained us on it. And one of those things with that is they've requested that we pass on the postage costs to the applicants. It's $27.50. And we just wanted to amend the consolidated fee schedule to add that with it. So that's kind of really short, but do you guys have any questions about it?
So obviously that fee was not on the previous schedule, or it
No,
was
not
on
at
in
all.
a smaller amount.
You can do some, like we do have an expedite where for an extra $60, and that's in 3 to 6 weeks, you get your passport back. With this, they're wanting the turnaround time to be 6 to 14 days. And so we're overnighting those applications to the agency to get those processed. So yeah.
Any questions for Brittany?
Great.
Yeah, not a question, but the last time we did our passport renewals, we did it here, and you guys were great for the photographs and helping us be sure I had the forms filled out correctly and doing it for minors and for adults. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, that makes me so happy to hear.
Yeah, I did not need to expedite it. So I could take my sweet time, but you guys were great. And
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
so
thank you. That makes me so happy to hear. Okay, that's all I've got.
Great, thank you, Brittany.
Thank you.
So Justin, this will come to a council meeting to pass the ordinance, or do we take a motion?
So it's actually coming tonight.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, fee schedule.
okay, thank you. Of course. Next, we have a presentation regarding enhancements to Provo 311 Customer Service Access. This will be presented by Amanda Erkenbrack, Laramie Gonzalez, and Brittany Densley.
I look nothing like Amanda, but
Yeah.
but Amanda is here in case we have questions for her later. I'm Laramie with customer service. You just obviously heard from Brittany. We are excited to talk to you a little bit today about some enhancements to some of those communication channels we have with our residents here in Provo. This was kind of prompted by the fact that we have a new tool on our website. It's called See-Click-Fix. It's a new way to report an issue. And so we put together a little something on how that actually works. But leading up to that, we thought there was some cool little added things that we've done with some of our other communication channels that we thought we'd highlight today and kind of show you what improvements we've made there. So I forgot to add a click here. The three things that we can probably highlight today is our social media. We decided to jump in and try the social media route. We had some requests that customer service actually give that a try, have a Facebook page and some other social media. There's some surrounding cities that do something similar with a Facebook group, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. The new website, I think we're all familiar with the fact that Provo City went live with the new website in January. We've got some cool things that are unique to Provo on the unique to customer service on the website, and so we'll talk about that in a second also. And then, of course, what I mentioned about the reporting issue, and Brittany will talk to that when we get there. The first one is the Facebook group. So we don't necessarily have a Facebook page, so to speak, but we have a Facebook group. And if you're on Facebook, you can go in there, you can join this Facebook group. And the idea of the Facebook group was to set up a forum for just an open dialogue to chat with the city about anything and everything. You could ask questions there. Of course, the best part about this is when somebody asks a question, the answers that are posted to those questions actually just live forever because it's on Facebook. So a lot of those commonly asked questions that a lot of people think about or want to ask, they don't ask, but somebody decides to do that. They can ask that here. I think right now, I forget how many members we have there, but you can just scroll through and see all the questions that were asked on the Facebook group. One thing that we was a little bit hesitant about first was we thought this might be kind of one of those sites where it might be a dumping ground for a lot of maybe controversial things or some complaints and whatnot, but so far it's been pretty positive. We haven't had to really have any of those questions on there that we thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be a problem for us to have to kind of mitigate as we work through a response. But Ava does answer all of those. It's usually me that's Ava, Amanda.
Switch off, who's Ava?
Right. So, but Ava does respond to those. I posted a couple of those examples here, and for the most part, we get like a random, a window washing kind of service or something that wants to post there and advertise, but it's been mostly positive. And so we're pretty happy with how this is going so far. It's not got a lot of traction, but we have got quite a few questions and responses to there. And this one's actually from the get-go, probably give a shout out to the council and the council staff, because through this one, I know with in particular Rachel Breen, when we first started this, she was sharing that a lot in the neighborhood meetings, and we gained probably 100+ followers in like the first week. And that was actually really cool just to see. We didn't get a lot of questions, but I get a lot of responses saying, oh, we saw that. We saw somebody posted that there. And it's pretty cool to see that people are actually watching it, even though they're not really posting there. So far, this has been a success, I think. And the fact that just about everything on there has been just pretty good general question. Yeah. So
yeah.
If you get a chance, get on there, take a look, join if you're not already a member, and then just kind of scroll through those answers and see what's working so far. The next one is the new website. So I think we're all familiar with the fact that we got a new website in January. But one cool thing about customer service in regards to the website is there's only 2 departments in the whole city that got their own landing page or header page. And what that is it's kind of like the city website, but the template is specific to customer service. So you can see that this looks like the city website here. Up in the left-hand corner, you see customer service. But everything on the website on the landing page is unique to customer service. So all of the buttons like pay online, report a concern, licenses, pavilion reservations, all of those things kind of mimic the same layout as the regular website, but you actually get those specific to customer service. So the drop downs, everything kind of keeps it more centralized to all the services we offer, which we think is pretty cool. To once you get to customer service, you can see all of those things instead of having to go to those drop downs that you would normally find in maybe another department that aren't public facing services like we have here. The the chat. We have a chat feature on the new website. And of course, you've probably all seen it because it's on every single web page. But down in the left-hand corner, that's Ava. I'm sure you guys have all seen Ava, met Ava. If you haven't, Ava stands for Ask Virtually Anything. So you can pretty much ask Ava anything. Down in the right-hand corner, that's the little chat bot. That's Ava down there. You can ask anything, and if she can't find it on the website, she does what we call it a crawl. She does a crawl every single day. And so any kind of new information that's put on the website, not just customer service, but citywide, she stores that in her training. We call her like the best customer service agent we have because you trained her once and she's got it forever.
And she never calls in sick. She's always there.
She's 24/7. She's great.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is she as knowledgeable as Alexa or is she as knowledgeable as Google?
She is more knowledgeable than both when it comes to city stuff.
I like that because
But-
Alexa, she gives me a lot of no answers.
People think she's Google. We actually get a lot of random questions that
Mhm.
really aren't city related.
Very random things.
But we still do our best to try to get those answered as well. But so yeah, she crawls the website every single night and gains that new knowledge that if any department decides to has to update their pages or add new events or whatever, she grabs that knowledge and she's ready to answer those questions the next time she's asked that. One cool thing to hear is if she gets asked a question that she doesn't know, those kind of go into a repository of need training, little prompts to, and Brittany gets those notifications, and every day she goes in there and says, oh my gosh, Ava she was asked this question that she didn't know. And then Brittany does her best to do the research, get that answer, get her trained. So she has that answer next time somebody asks. So in general, if you ask Ava a question she doesn't know today, try back tomorrow. Because from then on, she gets that training and then she knows from that day going forward. So Ava's learning every single day, and we're getting probably, better not say, we're probably getting fewer needs trainings today than we did when we went live because
Definitely.
she's been getting used to answering those questions and filling those gaps that aren't on the website. But nevertheless, it's an ongoing thing, and so far Ava's doing great.
She has a cute little personality.
So, and the last one, of course, is the report of concern. So on the website, you'll notice that pretty much on every website or on every landing page throughout the city website, you'll see a report of concern or report an issue. And that's our new Click Fix feature, which is kind of what we're here for today. And Brittany will walk you through some of those features and how it works. And
Yeah. Oh, next one.
Laramie,
I'm
I
gonna be-
probably should know this. You said there were two departments that have their own landing page. Which is the other one?
the Cubby Center.
Oh, the Cubby Center, of course.
I've learned a lot about the website training Ava. I go looking for information there and there's a lot of information on all their.
Even our
web
CSR
pages.
leads, Ava. So-
Yeah, yeah, we kind of use it as a knowledge base too. So we'll train her on new things and the CSRs can ask her those questions as well. So report a concern or an issue is our Click Fix. I think some of you are familiar with it. I love it. It replaced our old CRM POB that was very outdated. There's 3 different ways that you can report an issue. There's the mobile app. So we have our Provo City app, and within there it's embedded so you can report everything right there. You can also do that online through our website, just like what you can see here is exactly how it'll look, and it gives you all the information. Oh, and then with the mobile app as well, I keep forgetting this. We do have some QR codes. That's what's on your guys' cards as well. So you can download that app. And then of course you can call into us at 311 and one of our representatives will submit that for you. And so we do have an awesome demo video that shows you the process. So we'll go ahead and watch that.
Yeah, while I'm there, my mind was.
It's like a branch is resting on a power line. Doesn't look very safe. Who would I even call?
Great question, Jamie. And good news, you don't have to figure that out. With our new report and issue system, reporting an issue is quick and easy. See something? Say something. Just choose how you want to report. Use our app. Snap, pick, Type a quick note. And hit submit. Go online and fill out a simple form. Or call Provo 311 and we'll take care of it for you. No need to wonder where your request goes.
That was easy.
Our system automatically sends it to the right department.
There's a new request for treatment of the power lines. I'll get an arborist right on it.
Fast and efficient, our team is on the case.
Hey, got a confirmation. Already on.
Problem solved, and all without you having to wait on hold or wonder anything about your request. And just like that, case closed.
Love it.
See Chaz in action.
Done already?
The city request is done, reporting problems easy, fast, and hassle-free. Download the app, visit the website, or give us a call today.
It's effective.
I love that video.
Nice.
Yeah. Or watch it again.
So good, we're gonna watch it twice.
Oh, come on.
Other than when he's scraping the sidewalk, I can just hear the rate. So some of the benefits with C-Click Fix have been the increased transparency. Over on the left-hand side here, you can see where you can follow along with one of your requests. This one was for a street light. This is what it'll look like on your phone. I loved the mobile app. I will submit things. I saw something when I was walking into work, a water leak, and Perks had it fixed like that. It's easy to use for both citizens and employees. It's so much more user-friendly than POB was, especially, I feel, especially for our employees too, to get that, it's so much more efficient. They can work on these requests out in the field, which is so nice. And it's up to date and modern. The app is great, online is great, and on the back end, all of the reporting and everything like that is so easy to use. I know you can like set up different reports to come in monthly, weekly, things like that. So it's great for managers and people looking at those things. And then a shout out to GIS and Stan's team. They actually created a dashboard for us. So besides the reporting we have in the actual C-Click Fix, they've created this dashboard. We can look at the different service requests by category and status. We can see all the requests in the past 30 days, how many total requests we've had as of last week was over 2,000. It's really cool. I really like the benefits of it and everything that we can see here. Anything to add to that, Lauren?
It's the fact that they're broken down by department or by category, so you can see how many requests we get. You can see obviously parking tends to be a big one there. And then the bottom right hand corner is just kind of a history over the last few months since we went live with C-Click Fix. So you can kind of see that the use of the actual tool is gone up considerably. So I think the coolest thing about that is just the communication of having those added service orders, service requests coming into the city. Is significantly more than it was before, but I think it's just because of the ease of reporting and really hasn't changed the amount of work that we have to do on our end because it's just so much easier and convenient for the customer to use. So,
yeah. So do you guys have any questions? I love it too.
Surprisingly, parking is 5% of the incoming issues.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's there are quite a few. Bowden let me know that they had a lot more cases once we went live with C-Click Fix. So
Oh, really?
They're busier.
But even the field crews like it more because they see it, they have more information, they're getting them real time, and it's easier for them to respond.
Yeah.
Faster
So-
response, yeah.
They're not
Mhm.
kind of in the dark of how they're gonna get those orders and the priority of the orders and whatnot, so they seem to be pretty excited the fact that they have a tool that's accessible. As before,
Mhm.
it was a little bit clunky to actually communicate those service orders to the field personnel, so. We actually have a link to the live site if you guys want to see actual case put in. We can put one in now, or if it's just, I don't care to see that right now, we don't have to do that. Yes.
I have a question. So they're getting the feedback on the phone through the app. Are we also giving them feedback if they do it online or if they call in?
Yeah, they can, as long as when they submit that request, they put it in as they're logged in. They can't do it as like a guest or anonymous, then it won't give them the updates. But as long as you've signed in, you'll get those updates emailed to you.
And then even if they call 311,
Yeah, we can get your information and put you in as a constituent, and you should get those as well.
do they ask? Do
Yeah.
they ask if you want updates or do they just?
Yeah, they should, if they'll ask you if you want, like your information put in,
Okay.
so.
What's really cool on the back end also, like right here, you can see that the comments that are entered on this particular case. On the back end, we can, there's two different kinds of comments. You can see what's circulated on the in-house, the employee side. So you can see the employees are making comments of what they need to do or who they reassigned it to, or the next action item or whatnot that happens behind the scenes. But then there's also public comments that we can also put public comments in there that the public sees when they're looking at this particular issue. So, and yeah, you can, it depends on like who you are, like the CSRs have that backend information where they can see where it's assigned to and the different stages that it's at. So it helps us with tracking.
So this Jeremy Clark is the back end. That's not what the,
Let me see
that's
what
not what
it
the
was
constituency.
completed. You can do it as like a public comment or an internal comment, and this one I believe is the public comment, so Jeremy Clark's letting them know, completed on July 9th. And so they'll see that, and you'll also get an email when you're logged in that says there's been a comment put on or your case has been closed and here's the information on it.
Impressive.
And you can also follow other cases that have been put in as well. So if you see an issue, let's say there's a pothole and you notice that and you see somebody's already reported it, you can also start following the same issue and be getting the same updates for that particular issue. That's.
And this is in the app or online, right?
Yes, online, and I believe so, because it's embedded in the app, it's embedded to the website, so you should be able to see it through there as well. So. Sometimes I forget if I've subscribed to one of them and I'll get the email that says something you've subscribed to now has a comment and go look at it and stuff, so, yeah.
I guess a key now is to continue to get word out to the residents.
Yes.
I'm glad you've been able to engage with them in the district meetings. Any thoughts on linking to other websites or rather Facebook pages like our Provo or Provo Forward, doing kind of a little comment there that gets wide, they get a lot of views.
We could do that. I think what's interesting is it's kind of interesting how it appears on every page on the website, because sometimes it says report an issue if you're on a different page where maybe it's not an issue, maybe it's actually a concern, where it does state it differently. Just make sure that we try to capture those people going to the website, that they know that anything that you're reporting on the website is a C-click-fix issue. It's not just a random thing. So C-click-fix is the engine behind the reported issue. So
Okay.
We're pretty much putting that out there everywhere. Even on some of the comments that we respond to on the Facebook group, we will tell them to either report an issue or talk to Avon, because you can ask Avon, she can.
Yeah, she'll send you the link.
Any other questions for Laramie or Brittany? Becky?
So if I asked Ava a question, like my street light is out, do you have any information on that? Would she be able to pull up some of the stuff and let me know, or would she just direct me to report it to C-click-fix?
She would probably direct you to the C-click-fix. I don't think she crawls the requests that come in through C-click-fix, if that makes sense. We'd have to have a crawl engine on that, and I don't know if it's capable of doing that. I could find out though. That would be really cool.
Yeah, and then I know whether I have to report it or just.
Exactly. There is a map of the open requests as well on the page. Go back. No. Keep going back. Huh? There's this one, this is the dashboard, but on the main website page where you can report that issue at the bottom, it says see a map of the open requests. Oh, go back. It's at the bottom of this page. You'll see it down here and you can open up that open request map.
It's also fun because if you start to put in a pothole at the location, I'll say, there's already a request on this. And so it will warn you before you do a second request on something that's already in there.
So that's tied to the location. So once you put in the location, it looks at everything that's already attached to that location and what you want.
So does that put more pressure on like Public Works if there's 2 or 3 different complaints on a pothole? Or does it make a difference?
They already have the case, so they'll be working that already, but I don't know. They don't necessarily see that 25 people are following the same case. They just know they have to get it done.
Well, thank you, Laramie and Britton. Thank you for your great work to our residents.
Thank you. Thank you. Stuff.
Next, we'll move to an update regarding the reimagining code enforcement, presented by Scott Johnson, our zoning administrator. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council. Mayor Kafusi, Scott. So this is ongoing request from the council to keep you up to date on a few things that we're working on to reimagine code enforcement throughout the city. So I have the clicker here, don't I? So just an update on the request for a proposal, or sorry, this is the RDL. This is for the comparing data from the county to city records. We're still combing through the 13,000 lines of data, making sure we're reaching out to the right property owners that do not have a license that we feel should have one. We've sent approximately 260 letters out to property owners. We've gotten responses in one way or another from about 20% of them. And this is just over the last month and a half. Some of them have just submitted their application. We've had some respond, calling us back saying, hey, why did I get this letter? We've explained the situation and why we feel they need a license. Some have explained their situation and why they feel they don't need one. And we've put notes in our system if it is in fact the case that they don't need a license for whatever's going on there. So that's ongoing. We're continuing to work through all that data and get as many of those letters out as quickly as we can. It's a bit of a manual process at this point, but we're plugging through as quickly as we can. Yeah.
So here's what would be helpful for me. I'm not involved in all the details of the plan. I'm just interested in here's where we were without in terms of enforcement, in terms of our ability to enforce, and here's where we are with that system. I have no idea if the gap is this or if it's like huge. And so in terms of reporting back, what would be helpful for me is to know the with and without. So what's the difference?
Right. So without sending all these letters out,
You don't have to give me an answer right now. I'm just looking at.
Well, I can give a general idea based on what we've seen so far. Probably about 10%, so 20 out of 200 properties went ahead and applied for their license. So that's 20 rental properties, or I guess 20 property owners. I don't know. I didn't look into the details of each license to see if there were multiple properties. That we didn't have to go knock on the door, verify that they're occupied or not, send a notice of violation.
In a month or a week?
Within it was about a month and a half since we started sending the letters out. So much more efficient in staff resources and staff time. As manually intensive as it is to send out individual letters and check these properties, it's almost a night and day difference in the amount of time that it would take for a code enforcement officer to go out and knock on the door multiple times, talk to people, find out who lives there, who doesn't live there, how they're related to the property owner or whatnot. So I feel that it's very, very much more efficient in taking this approach for these properties.
Well, I don't know how other counselors feel, but in this report, I'd love to see the from to, like, what's the gap, what's the impact of the good work you're doing? So that's what I'd like to see next time, is
Okay.
it's 3 more, it's 500 more, it's. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I would want.
I agree.
Yeah, because this is a presentation that's just kind of like bullet points, but it doesn't actually have data in it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's.
So we
I'm
didn't know
getting
which-
to where I'm starting to gather the
Okay.
data that I'll be able to present, so.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That'd be very helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but we reading or looking at it ahead of time in our packet are like, oh, well, he's gonna talk about this, but we have no idea how it's going
absolutely,
until
absolutely, I
it
understand.
is good
and
to
that's-
see you and but we could do a little bit of reading in advance too.
Absolutely, and that's, simply with, at least for this item, the short amount of time that we've been doing it, the data we've been able to gather, getting this in time for approvals to get it on the agenda. I didn't have any data at that point. I'll absolutely have some good data for you next time based on what's going on.
Great.
All right, so the next item, and these kind of go to the point of why these are just bullet points, is I don't have any data on these yet. It's more of a status of where we are in getting these going. The request for proposal to do the long-term data gathering, I've finally been set up as of late last week to be able to even start learning the new system that the city is using to put out RFPs. So I've been going through yesterday and this morning, going through the training, learning the new system so that I can get the RFP put through. So we can find out if there is a software system out there that can do some scraping of the internet to find properties that are advertised for rental that we're not aware of, and give us that data. And then body.
So we don't even have an RFP out.
Correct. When I drafted a Word document that, following old process, old system, and as I was ready to put it out, I was told the city was updating to a new system, and that it would basically be pointless to try to post it there when in that process we'd be changing over to a new system. And it's
Change made a few months ago.
I
think you mentioned.
Yeah, it's been a couple months where it officially changed, and then just working with the finance department to get an account set up for me so I can start learning and training in the new system. They were going through their own training and learning the system themselves. So yeah, I'm going through that training process now, learning the system so I can get the RFP put in. By the next time I meet with you guys, I anticipate that to be fully submitted and be able to start looking at potential proposals coming in. Body cameras is in a similar boat. I just touched base this morning to verify where things are with our IS team getting the body camera set up. They said they ran into some technical roadblocks in the server that manages that, and so they're overcoming that, and I anticipate getting those any day now to be able to start utilizing. Public education, getting the public more involved, more educated in code enforcement and what's going on. The digital media outreach I'm going to point to specifically is something I'm really excited about. I've been working with the public information officer within our department to go over a bunch of ideas. I'm really excited for some of the ideas we've come up with. We're drafting the script that we'll be using in the videos and the digital, the social media posts that we're planning on putting out. We've got some really fun ideas that I think will be educational as well as entertaining. So as entertaining as code enforcement is. And then I'm continuing to work with my staff to schedule times to go meet with the neighborhoods and their neighborhood meetings. And so far it's been great experiences all around with those. The last of all, it's not a bullet point I have on here, but I did want to just point out with the civil fines, I know a request came to come at a future towards the end of the year to talk about civil fines and some details. I'll get that for you. But I just want to say anecdotally, my staff is absolutely in love with utilizing civil fines. They've seen anecdotally in almost a night and day difference in the response of people who we send notices to, or even just have the threat talking to them about, hey, here's what the process is gonna be. If you don't take care of it, you're gonna get civil fines and this is what they're gonna be.
That's great to hear. On that same note, with the new sham laws that we've done in that, are you seeing any progress in the Pleasant View neighborhood?
Am I seeing progress as in?
Getting some of those homes that
Success in.
success and enforcing on some of those homes that,
So when it comes to success and enforcement, I would say, yes, we're seeing success, but to the level of what some people in the neighborhood would like it to be, it's different from what the strict lines within the code and what we have to be able to pursue prosecution. I'll have to talk more specifically with the officer over that area to see if they're continuing to have specific areas where they're having issues. But in my experience, looking through cases that we have done and licenses that have come through, every time we make a shift in code to make the rules go one way, people learn how to make the shift to keep just outside of that. So it's a cat and mouse game in trying to figure out.
so is daily fines your biggest tool that you've, like that, the best leverage you've gotten in the last few years?
Specifically with that neighborhood, I'm not sure. I haven't,
Just in general?
in general, absolutely. In general, for enforcement, it has been much more successful. We've had a few properties of occupancy concerns where it would normally take months to be able to get through the whole process and have, having tenants be evicted. To push the criminal route, once they've been told, well, you're gonna have these daily fines, before those fines even start accruing, all the tenants are out and we're able to do an inspection. So it's been very helpful. Okay, and that's all I have.
Well, thank you, Scott. You mentioned members of your team going out to neighborhoods as well. Know that you contact Rachel Green. The district meetings are open for you to present.
Yeah, we've been coordinating with her to make sure that when we have specific presentations, which is what I'm working on with my team.
To take them there.
We're coordinating with Rachel to make sure that we're on the agenda.
Great. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks. And I failed to mention, to recognize Councillor Hoban, who joined us a while back. So thank you, Councillor. We're at full staff today, full team. We'll now take a 10-minute break and reconvene at 3:20.
Perfect.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Okay, thank you. We'll reconvene our council work session.
Yes.
Beginning with the next item, which is a discussion regarding an update on parking regulations on Slate Canyon Drive that have been implemented for a year now. And Malia Daly, one of our council analysts, will lead this discussion.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, so as Chair Garrett said, this is a 1 year, a little bit late, a month late, a 1 year review of the parking regulations implemented on Slate Canyon Drive last year. So today when we're going through these, I'm going to review the original goals that the council set last spring when we were discussing this, and then we'll review parking, traffic, and code enforcement feedback to kind of update these goals. So the original goals of this parking management regulation was to reduce parking congestion, overall safety, including the sight lines. That was something specific called out. And then regulating over occupancy and rentals through parking restrictions. So the regulation, just so we're all on the same page, is just no parking on the street on Slate Canyon, and then some neighboring kind of tangential southern streets, just parts of them, from midnight to 6 a.m. Every day of the week. So that is the regulation. So now I'm just going to walk through. There is both a presentation that was submitted by Vern and then also a memo submitted by Sandy regarding the parking and traffic review. These are just kind of the key findings, and then I pulled out their recommendations here, but we can pull up their full presentation and memo if you would like to walk through those. So parking, their key findings was use of disability placards. There was a number of people that parked on the street because, remember in our discussions, a lot of the driveways on that street are very steep incline, and so some people that need disability, more ADA compliant ways to get in and out of their car got placards to park on the street. And then a reduction in citizen complaints. That is something else that parking has noticed. So their recommendation is that it's meeting the goals that were outlined by the council last spring. And so they just suggest nothing unless the goals have changed or if there's new goals that the council wants to address there. But if from a parking perspective, they say it's meeting the goals that were set. And so they just suggest to continue monitoring. Any questions on parking? Sandy and Vern and Scott are all here. They graciously took my invitation to come. Thank you guys. So they can answer more specific questions. So I'll continue on.
So Malia,
Yeah.
the just 4 complaints in the last year on parking. I was looking at Brittany's slide earlier that showed issues in the city. I did see a lot of red up in that neighborhood. Red was for parking. That's not very many. It really just 4 complaints in the last year.
I don't know if those are specific complaints to a specific type of parking. Sandy might be able to answer that, but these, yeah, we'll let Sandy speak to that if you want. You might need to turn on that mic, Sandy.
Okay, so what those complaints will be is for block driveways, 72-hour violations, so vehicles parked there again, so that's what we're getting.
And the 26 was also in a 1-year period of time. So from 26 over 12 months to just 4 over 12 months.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
Okay.
Again, the 72-hour abandoned vehicle kind of corrected itself, which was a lot of the complaints that we were getting up on Slate Canyon prior to this implementation, and block driveways at night.
Just clarification, Sandy. So are we getting any more complaints on blocked driveways currently?
Excuse me?
Slate Canyon, are we getting any complaints on blocked driveways currently? Or was that just something we had before?
We're not seeing any at all, but then again, you also have to remember when I say complaints, that's someone that's called in. Right now, our enforcement has increased up there. So a lot of these we're actually seeing before someone has to call and complain. But the block driveways have gone down significantly since this implementation.
Okay, so we're still seeing them, they've just gone down.
Rarely. I don't wanna say no, we're not saying none, because we get them. I had a lady talk to me about, her neighbor had a big truck, and it was during the day, and he's kind of in cross country.
Okay.
So I don't wanna say we're not getting them, but they have decreased significantly.
To me, that's amazing, because we can't have that, it's a huge safety issue. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we're gonna move on now to traffic for this. So Vern provided really good traffic data in that attached presentation and the supporting documents for this. So we can pull that up if you would like to go through there. I will note on the traffic report, because there has been updated technology and the your speed sign that monitors speeds that got put in, it's hard to do an apples to apples comparison of traffic data for Vern's normal process of traffic data before and after, because there was another contributing factor other than just the parking regulation. So he can do updated traffic studies in the future that would give you a more apples to apples comparison on how that is working, but he does still have data. This study was done the second week of July, so just last week, 2 weeks ago. And then these are just kind of some key stats that I pulled out from the study that he provided. So 5 crashes in 3 years, almost, I think 3 of them were all the driver wasn't paying attention or texting and driving. So, and then the posted speed limit on that road, this was something that was brought up a lot in our discussions last spring, both by residents and council members, is people speeding and worry that if the cars are taken off the street and there's no longer street parking because it is such a wide road that people will now be driving even faster. Vern's study showed that the overall average speed was 33% and the 85%. So 85% of the drivers on the road and below, that max speed is 41. So that is higher than 25, and it is kind of fast for a residential road, but
Yeah, but it's not higher than it was before the no
yes,
park.
it is not higher than it was before. And then, yeah.
So are these, I know it's not apples to apples, and I know we have other things, but are the speeds the same, Vern, or as they were when you did prior to the parking regulation, or are they a little bit lower? Are they a little higher?
Again, looking at the technology that we're using today and the your speed sign that's available that catches different things.
Right.
I probably would be a little hesitant to confirm that, but I will say my northbound direction is a much higher speed than my southbound direction. The southbound direction has a your speed sign that kind of reminds people to be slower. With that being said, at the entrance of Slate Canyon Drive, both on the south and the north, we have digital speed limit signs that say 25 that flashes at you. And then we have a static display, a regular speed limit sign that says 25 as well. So going uphill, going northbound is the highest speed that we're seeing. And then we got a couple bad apples like motorcycles at midnight doing 61 miles.
So let me ask you this. This is the one you did 2 weeks ago, and the overall 85 percentile speed is 41. The one you did prior to that, what was the overall 85% speed?
I don't remember offhand, and it wouldn't be a fair comparison with the 2 technologies that I use.
Right.
So next year I can come back and I can show you the latest 3 years, and you will be able to see the comparison between the overall average speed and the 85th percentile using the same technology.
Vern is Slate Canyon Collector Road.
It is. It has 2,200 vehicles a day, and that's actually pretty low for a residential collector street. It's pretty conservative compared to like 1460 North, which is also kind of a residential collector. It receives about 6,000 vehicles a day, so it's very different.
Great, thank you.
Traditionally, aren't collector roads supposed to be 35?
And I wouldn't say traditionally, because we have a lot of driveways. It depends how many conflicts we have fronting
Got
that
it.
road.
That makes sense.
All depends on driveways and public streets connecting to it.
So I'm sorry if I missed this, but do you feel that I know there were a lot of concerns about the safety due to visibility issues, right? Because of all those driveways with all those cars parked, it was very difficult for cars to be able to see, but do we have any data to suggest that things are safer?
Well, 3 of those crashes were run off the road crashes, so distracted drivers. So I don't.
So not really.
Not really. One was a DUI, and the other one involved a pedestrian. So one with the pedestrian that I was most concerned about. Were they hitting the crosswalk? Were there obstructions? Was the people just not paying attention? I did not dig deep enough into the crash report to look at that, but I could.
But we don't have, I mean, do we have any even anecdotal data from the neighborhood saying I'm pleased with the fact that I can come and go in my driveway without having to worry if I'm gonna be invisible to passing drivers?
I have heard that it's much easier backing out of their driveway now that they can see better, but 5 reported crashes is what I need to iterate here. Others may say that there are crashes up there that occur that are not reported. If they're not reported, they're like a near miss. It doesn't count.
I've also heard that the garbage collection is extremely happy and the post office is extremely happy, like it's a game changer for them.
And so are the snowplower. and the
Oh,
bulldozer.
snowplow, yeah.
And as a biker, I will say it's a game changer for bikers too.
I have heard that too, that's right. I think Malia told me that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our
Someone
new
who
biker.
lives up there biking on the road. Yeah, so the recommendation and possible solutions here, Vern kind of touched on this, is another traffic study, but then also providing the speed information to the police department for traffic enforcement. And they do frequently have a speed, I forget what it's called, like a speed wagon, a speed something at the bottom of going northbound at the bottom of Slate Canyon when you're coming around to the roundabout and down by Splash Summit. So down there. I guess that changes name to Olympic Boulevard or Olympic Drive, but. Okay, and then I don't have a slide for code enforcement, but they did email me. That's not on them, that is on me. They did email me some data and I met with Scott in November of 2024, so a couple of months after we implemented it. The code enforcement officer for that area went up and canvassed every single house on Slate Canyon Drive and spoke to a resident or owner of every house up there, so 106 homes. All the homes that are touching the street where the parking regulation is in effect. Based off of that, they found 29 rentals that did have a license, so they were able to confirm there's 29 rentals with a license. Based on that, they did identify 2 overoccupied homes, and then were able to enforce on those and close those cases, so they're now in compliance. So Scott is here if you have any additional questions on code enforcement. And as far as that third goal that the council has of regulating over occupancy. So.
I know I heard from multiple citizens that a number of nuisance homes stopped being nuisances. And some houses were sold that have been investor properties, so that's interesting too. I know it's been hard on some people though, especially with work vehicles. And I feel bad about that.
Malia, when was that door-to-door survey done?
That was November of 2024. So we implemented this, I think, the second week of June, first week of June. And so that was, what was that, 5 months after?
Yeah, maybe just piggybacking off of what Catrice was just saying. I think the only complaint I occasionally hear is that, and I'm sure Sandy hears these things too, because sometimes I forward these things to you. But there's people who've been following the law all along, and they feel like they've got this massive inconvenience in front of their house that's caused by these violators elsewhere. Some people are complaining that their particular stretch of the road is not the ideal place to impose the rule. So there's occasional complaints about some of those side streets or the length of the ban. But that's all I hear, you know, in terms of negatives. I've heard some of the same positives that Catrice mentions, but I don't know, Sandy, if you want to comment on any of that, I've always kept myself open to the idea of a parking permit program, which seems to solve that issue, right? Is to say you have now access to parking in front of your house if you've got guests or you've got somebody visiting, family members visiting. That's been the pain points where people feel like it's such a hassle. I've got to park a couple cars far away from the house. So I don't know if you want to comment on that. That's just still an open question in my mind as to whether or not a parking permit program makes any sense at any point.
I think the parking permit program as well. Now, in every other parking permit program that we have in Provo City, it's the area that has the parking permit. No one is guaranteed to be able to park in front of their house. And so that will be a challenge on Slate Canyon. Again, so if people pay for a parking permit, they could end up parking anywhere on that road again. And so that may not solve the problem that people's concerned in front of their house.
Good point.
Another question. So we're seeing a lot more handicap placards. Would those handicap placard people be required to have a permit, or is that not legal? I mean, would that count? Like if I had a handicap spot and I only had like 2 permits, would I have to have one of those for my handicap spot?
Right now, we do not require, if you have a handicap placard, because it's vague, you're able to park wherever is needed, as long as you're not creating a hazard for others. So in other permit areas, Carterville, for example, we have a gentleman that's a paraplegic. He's eligible for 2 permits in that area, but he has around the clock help, plus around the clock someone that lives with him, plus he does drive. So we allow him to get his 2 permits, and then his disability placard, he can park that on the street as well. It's a fine line, and Brian may know a little bit more, but that's how kind of the code's written, that with that disability placard, they can park in these permit areas.
So my concern, I guess, would be there's not very much width on those streets to park. And if I remember right, it was only like 1.5 parking spaces per household, right?
That's generous.
Yeah, like it was decided already that if we did a parking permit program, it could only be 1 parking permit per house.
And would the handicap permit count as your
It
one?
probably would, and that would cause some chaos then.
That's what I was trying to get at. That's what the point of my questions is, how much chaos is that? Because if you've got half your people getting handicap placards now, and then you're gonna allow them to have another 1 parking permit.
It's not half, there's, I think that at last count when I was running there was, if I remember correctly, 18 to 20 disability placard holders along Slate Canyon. So I think that, and if I remember, again, these are my, thinking back, if each residence was eligible for 1 parking permit plus the disability placards, you would still have some open parking or some open space up there. But again, then you run into the conflict of if you have a disability placard and you're parked in front of your house, but then you get a permit, so now you're parking in front of your neighbor's house, but then your neighbor has a conflict because he has to park in front of another neighbor's house. I'm just saying we run into that frequently in the other permit areas, but they're bigger, and so it has worked itself out.
That is one of my concerns, is how that would all play out.
Yeah.
And not create the congestion that
I'm pretty happy
got rid
with
of.
your answer, and I think we keep monitoring it and getting reports. I mean, we do have that new development that probably is a ways to wait for before we have any evidence as to how it affects that neighborhood. But all I see when I come up Slate Canyon from the south is that they're parking down toward where the new development's gonna go. So that's an issue for us to think about. But we looked at that pretty closely when we approved the development to make sure that there was enough parking internally that they wouldn't be spilling out.
Well,
onto
they're
the
gonna
street.
know that no parking will be on the streets in that development, so they will know ahead of time.
Right.
What they need, that the garages are big enough, before they buy it, they know there's not street parking.
Councilor Christensen.
And it's not like a permit program doesn't have its downsides. I mean, the cost of that, I think we, as a council, were very clear that any permit program would have to bear the cost of that. And so the expense for that is fairly significant.
So this item was just a review. There was no kind of action items as staff was asking for, but if there are any motions the council would like to make for further research or any other actions regarding the regulation, this would be the time to do that. But if not, then that's all that we have.
Thanks for bringing it back. That's very good.
Any other recommendations from staff or follow-up requests?
I would just like to thank staff for this because this has been a really big undertaking.
Yeah.
I mean, I've felt it as a council member and I'm sure that it's impacted Sandy and her people a lot more than it impacted me. So thank you for your dedication and for doing this and for helping resolve those problems on that street.
Yes.
Because even as a council member not living there, just the emails that we got of what was going on up there was just. I'm glad that that's no longer an issue. Thank you.
On your previous slide, Malia, the one that said that zoning, parking enforcement is actively reviewing and verifying that placards are legitimate. Can someone comment to that? Would that be Sandy also?
Yeah, that would be a Sandy question.
Is that something are you actively reviewing and verifying that placards are legitimate? What does that mean? How are you doing that?
Is what we'll do is during our enforcement, we will write, we get the placard numbers.
Okay.
And then we will run them through a database again with the help of the police department. And so those placards come back to addresses along Slate Canyon. So we're just making sure that someone isn't borrowing one from someone that lives elsewhere. And so we're actively doing that, making sure that those that need them, Slate Canyon have them, but those that don't need them, then we'll cite them and then they can verify.
And so far you've been able to legitimize those.
Yes, absolutely, and we're staying on top of it.
Great, thank you.
Is that an actual problem that somebody's borrowing grandma's past?
Sure.
Parked on there?
When we have that problem, yes, it's nationwide. But on Slate Canyon, surprisingly, no. We have not had any issues on Slate Canyon, so that's been very refreshing.
Good, thank you.
Any questions for Malia or any of the other staff members? All right, thank you, Malia. Appreciate the report and update. Our final item for this work and study session is an ordinance updating Provo City Code regarding application of an urban farming policy for culinary water rates. That will be presented to us by Barry Freeman, Water Resources Engineer. Welcome, Barry.
Thank you. So we're coming here today to present the urban farming policy. Which again was because we did the water rates that we updated. Part of that in the legislature was to say that we also had to consider urban farming. So we looked at that as a public works department. So we're just going to go over some highlights here. And these are written in the policy that we have. So again, we're just gonna go over a few of them. So first, we'll talk about these requirements. So we started out by saying if there's a garden, it's got to be actively used during growing. Sorry. The garden must be actively used growing marketable plants such as fruits, vegetables, and herbs. So we didn't want to have anything like alfalfa or hay or something like that, right? It's got to be these types of plants. The property must have a garden meeting either 25% of the total parcel area or 5,000, a minimum of 5,000 square feet. So we looked at several properties throughout the city that had different properties or garden sizes. So we felt this was a good mix to cover both smaller lots that had a pretty good sized garden, but also large lots that could also have a good sized garden. For example, if there was like an acre lot, 25% of that would be a very large garden that a lot of people aren't going to have. So we included that 5,000 square feet to be a minimum size. Another requirement is the garden must be used at least 4 continuous months during the irrigation season. Right, so it's not going to be a garden that someone grows for like a month and then lets it die. Right, we want to see that it's used throughout the irrigation season. During that irrigation season, we want to make sure that they actually hit tier 3 in their water usage, because we found that if they hit tier 2, they're not really getting into that area that's higher pricing, right? We also want to make sure that we meet Provo City backflow standards so that if they have a garden that we're not getting any contamination into our drinking water system. So we'll have to make sure that they have they meet current backflow standards. We also want to make sure that they're irrigating in the most efficient means that they can. So whether that means drip or high efficiency nozzles, that we're not just wasting water on these gardens. To highlight some of the restrictions, we wanted to make sure that it's only on residential accounts. So commercial accounts would not be eligible. And then we wanted to make sure that's only in residential zoning. And then that they're not transferable. So if someone moves, they have to reapply for the policy. Yeah, the program, I guess you could call it, right? Here. So we actually went forth, or we went back and forth as our public works group through several iterations to try and figure out what the best way to apply this policy. We looked at things like maybe we could adjust the tier, right, so that they could have more water use. Maybe we could say that when they do have a 3/4 inch, we could say, well, let's move them up to say they have a 1 inch. But we found that would be really hard to administer. We talked to customer service. We looked at some different things. It would be really hard for them to kind of change those accounts for like a couple months, or we just found it would be really difficult. So we started looking around at, what do other cities do? So we looked at Pittsburgh Water and what they do, and it's kind of going to be a similar thing that we do, is if someone qualifies for it, that we would just apply a discount or credit at the end of the year to their account. So this slide kind of goes over what the policy would be, right? So they would apply, they would submit an application to the Water Resources Department. We would, look at the parcel, make sure that they meet all those requirements that I showed on the previous slide. We would verify that they actually do have a garden, that it's a 1 inch or a 3/4 inch meter, and that they meet all those requirements. And then, at the end of the year, we would check to make sure they actually did hit tier 3 during that irrigation season. And we would then, if they met all the requirements, we would just apply a $120 credit to their utility bill, so they could have $120 credit applied.
And I'm trying to remember from the material barrier if that's per month for the.
That would be for the entire season. Yeah, for the season, right? And so we did a quick calculation. It's about 69,000 gallons if you were looking at 3/4 inch meter. And so we were looking at thinking that that was a pretty fair price. Because that would be about, if you include like base rates, that would be pretty close to going all the way up to tier 3 for a 3/4 inch meter. We would just credit that for you for that season. We also looked at it and said this is a really easy way to administer it because we talked to customer service and they said that applying credits is very easy for them to do. It would be pretty easy for water resources to administer this as well, or we could just quickly look at a parcel map. We could get their area, go out and do a quick check on the garden. And then if we just look at their bills, we can tell really easily whether they got to tier 3. And then customer service could just apply a credit. It seems really simple and a really easy way for us to help those who have a community garden or an urban garden. Any questions so far?
Barry, what does it look like? How many gallons would that be? Because you have the 3/4 inch for the 1 inch meter.
Off the top of my head, I do not know because there's different ranges for that one, so I'd have to do a quick calculation. Because let me go to the next slide here. I can kind of show you that. So, oh, that's for a 3/4 inch. I forgot. For the tier 3 on the 1 inch, I think it's up to 100,000 gallons.
Right.
So it would be a little less, I guess, if you considered that.
Yeah, so they have to hit tier 3, or in the notes it said exceed tier 3.
Right, yeah. They would have to exceed it, yeah. So they would have to go above 55,000 gallons in this case for the 3/4 inch meter.
Oh, yeah, so they just have to
Exceed
be
tier 2, yeah.
They have to exceed.
Right,
tier
okay,
2.
you're right, yeah. So
Yeah,
essentially
we
exceed
want to
2.
change- I mean, the verbiage is probably not what's gonna be in the code, right? But,
Yeah, there's a lot of,
okay, just wanted to clarify.
yeah.
Cause exceed tier 3 is.
Tier
different.
2, yes, because tier
Yeah.
3 is essentially
Right.
to infinity,
Yeah.
so.
I'm not trying to criticize you.
No, you're right.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yep, so you're right, exceed tier 2, they would just have to hit the top of that to qualify.
But isn't this something similar to what we do with the electric rates for solar? Don't they get a credit at the end of?
Yeah,
the-
I'm not too familiar with the Provo power, so.
Is that how that works? They get a credit at the end of the year for solar?
I don't think they get it at the end of the year. I think they get it every month, based on their exception. And then at the end of the year that ends in March or something, they wipe out the extra.
Oh, is that how that works?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have solar, so I don't know. Okay. So it's different, so it wouldn't necessarily ding us all in one, like the month of December, we wouldn't have like any profit. It would be different then, right? So our utilities won't suffer?
Yeah, we don't think so. Just based on how many users actually hit tier 3, we're looking at, it's only I think we were looking at 3/4 inch, it's only about 10% of the users that actually hit tier 3. So it would be a pretty small number.
And to clarify, nobody who is running a business would be, it's just, because there's people who run businesses at their house, but.
Yeah, it would just be, that meter has to be a residential meter.
So they could be running a
Mhm.
They could be running a for sale, selling tomatoes or whatever.
As long
And
as
that
that would work.
They would get it, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you would determine that otherwise.
Like there's one business that she sells native plants. And so they're not,
I don't think that would count, right?
yeah, because that wouldn't count, right?
Well, she's on.
We were trying to include marketable, so that.
That's what I was wondering.
Some of those plants like a
Those-
flower or
I mean, she is selling them.
native plants.
There's a market for them if she's selling them.
Yeah,
Well, is that what we want to encourage though? I mean,
So she has
We
a
want to
whole-
incentivize a
yeah,
business.
she has a whole garden that's landscapes with native plants to teach people how to do it, and then she sells them.
I don't know if that's what we want to incentivize. Why do, because the language was switched from for food consumption to marketable, and was that the reason, something like that?
Yeah, we talked to some people, and there are people that grow flowers or say some landscaping stuff that they.
I don't know. Do we want to incentivize that? Good question.
Well, they are getting.
And supplement a business, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that.
We're also talking about $120.
Yeah, I know, I'm just. Yeah.
Well, we're also down in revenue $4 million in water though, which is why we have to raise rates.
Right. I'm just saying the cost, even of administering this program is not cheap either. As we look at like making sure that
Soft costs, yeah.
our processes are covered. So I wouldn't be inclined to try and discourage that because I think we're splitting hairs at insurance. And that might be a good time for me to make my comment about the council deciding how they want to handle this entire issue, because so the code that you've approved sets the rates. So that's a legislative act. So somehow the council has to be involved in granting the credit, granting the exception, granting the exemption. But there's actually different ways that you can do that. So, and it depends on how much, and essentially it's a sliding scale matrix of you want less control and more flexibility, or more control and less flexibility. And what I mean by that is that the two ways that this normally works is every detail of the exemption is actually in the code, and the only way to change it is for you to change the code, or you just delegate the authority to somebody. You see this all the time in state code. So one that springs to mind is towing, right? So there's a provision in state code that just says we delegate to the Department of Transportation the ability to set all rates for towing, right? So then the legislature never deals with towing rates. The Department of Transportation just does, right? So you actually have the ability, and one of the choices you have to make here is, are we going to add a sentence to the code that says Public Works Director can set a policy for exemption for credits based on urban farming, and all you want is an annual report on what the policy is so you're aware of it? Or do you want to control every word of the exemption and have it actually in the code? And that's a kind of a threshold question that goes to your point about, do we want to consider this, or do we want to incentivize this? One of the questions you got to ask is, are you actually in control of incentivizing it, or are you just giving Public Works feedback on what you think? That makes sense.
I kind of like the flexible model only because, especially for like the first year, seems like there's going to be a learning curve. And if we're getting a report from Gordon at the end of that year and you explain, these were the exemptions we gave, these were the reasons we used, then the council's in a position to say, that sounds pretty good, keep going, or it sounds to me like maybe we need to rethink some of those and some of the qualifications for it, or maybe we do want more control. It just feels like a good way to pilot it.
Barry, did you find that these kinds of municipal urban policy programs are common? Did you say you had to find a policy in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, it was actually Pittsburgh Water that I found. I looked, Pennsylvania Water also has it, they kind of vary with different things. I really didn't find too many, but I did find a few out there.
But none others in the region?
I could not find one in the region. No. Yeah. At least yet.
Yeah,
We're
because
the
it's a new
cutting edge.
requirement.
Yeah. So, that's why I say we were kind of going back and forth with staff because we really didn't have anything local.
Councilor Christensen and then Councilor Buck.
To follow up on Brian's comment, I would be inclined to say, let's let Public Works figure this out and work it through. I don't think we need to micromanage this topic.
My question was more, George said, I'm putting words in his mouth, so tell me if I'm understanding correctly. Let Public Works do this and then we'll make that decision next year, whether we want to micromanage from here on out or just allow them to take it over, right?
Well, it's always a possibility that we could change.
That we
any
could take
future
it back.
Council could say, we want to change the policy. All I'm suggesting is that if we have it in code that Public Works is going to administer a program that they have presented to us, and in a year's time, they will every year they will report on that. Then the council is always in a position, like we just did with Slate Canyon, to say, keep going, or gosh, maybe we need to reconsider the legislation altogether.
Okay, so that works so that we don't have to do like a quasi thing. And then if we decide to take it over, is that just a 4 vote or is that like a super majority vote of 5 to change that?
It's just a normal text amendment. If you decide to take it over, you're just amending the code to put whatever it is that you want in the code.
Okay, thanks. I just have email mountain on my brain, so it's starting to make me think.
Okay, to end, we also had a few just examples of how this would be administered to different properties around the city. We left out the addresses and, names and things, so we could keep it anonymous, but you might recognize some of these as you look at them. So this one, the lot size is 0.29 acres, and that's the outline there that you see in green is the actual parcel area, or it's 12,600 square feet, about that. This lot has a 3/4 inch meter. The garden area is about 3,300 square feet, which is about 26%. So this would meet the current proposal that we have. So their annual bill was estimated to be about $776. With the rate increase that is going to start in September, it would be about $821. So with the $120 credit, the annual bill would be down to about $700 for this property if they came in and applied and met all the requirements.
Are they using drip?
So we'd have to check that.
It is. This one has a drip irrigation system.
Yeah, I guess I actually didn't check to see if any of these properties were using efficient.
I didn't bring that up because I have my garden area, I have a big lot. It's about 800 square feet, which I measured this room, it's 540 square feet. So I have a pretty good big garden area, but I think it's actually really efficient. We have a pipe along and we have trenches and we turn on the hose and it runs into those trenches for about 60 seconds, turn it off, and that's all water. It's not drip, but it's pretty darn efficient. But that wouldn't qualify because, first of all, I wouldn't qualify because it's only 800 square feet. I'd have to have, 4 times that in order to reach the 5,000 minimum. But anyways, from an irrigation standpoint, it's actually really efficient, but it wouldn't qualify. So I don't know, there might be some flexibility in that. Like drip irrigation isn't the only efficient way of watering, especially some certain types of plants or crops. But maybe, if that's what we want to do, I guess that's what we want to do.
That could be something we could look at.
I know we want to probably discourage just spraying water everywhere, but I don't know. I don't want to make it more complicated, but there probably are people out there who have pretty efficient ways of watering that aren't necessarily considered drip or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we could look at that and maybe change the wording to say efficient irrigation
or something. I don't know.
Highly efficient. And in some ways, the giving Gordon that freedom to make a decision is better than if we tried to.
Right. Yeah. I'm not going to qualify because there's no way I'm going to get 5,000 square feet. I don't know. Maybe if I were really determined, I could. But yeah, to get my $120 back, just out of principle.
Incentivize, suddenly Travis is selling tomatoes all over.
Just don't.
We have, that's what, Kay Van Buren used to own property. He had tons of pumpkins. The other thing I was thinking of is I just don't know how many people are going to qualify. I think this is great that this property will qualify. To me, that fits the intent, right? I think they're making good use of their property, and I hope they're, can qualify. But I think a lot of, if you look at a typical 1/4 acre lot, I did the math. If you have a 2,000 square foot boundary of your home, because the home, you take the home out of the equation.
We're actually including the whole parcel.
You're including the
so
whole
it's just
parcel.
very easy to just click on the parcel map.
Yeah, that's probably a good way, but it also might make it a little harder to reach that 25% minimum, wouldn't it?
Right. I can see that, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I just like, so let's say a 10,000 square foot lot, R110, right, would be somewhere around there. You gotta have 2,500 square feet. That's, 5 of these rooms. I don't know many people on a typical R110 lot that have 5 of these rooms, as a garden area. So which maybe that's the intent. Maybe the intent isn't to really make this like a garden exemption. Maybe it's to make it, a farming
Yeah,
exemption.
it's
right?
what we would find if they actually did to have that much garden, that they would never hit tier 3. Because they typically don't use as much water.
Yeah,
So it's kind of a balance.
So they're probably never good. So really, this is all kind of a moot point, because hardly anybody's gonna reach it, really, yes. I guess I'd just be hard pressed to call this a garden exemption if.
Right.
Nobody's really gonna, nobody in a typical R110 that has a garden has been called.
Yeah, because we're really trying to help those that would reach tier 3, and not be able to do that, I guess. We want to help those that are hitting that higher tier. And so in
These
cases
guys-
where they
did
don't.
these guys hit tier
Yeah,
three?
they actually reach tier 3. So that's one of the, at least, according to what we
Yeah.
had online.
I think it's gonna be very few that qualify, but maybe that's our intent. Maybe our intent isn't to really help people with gardens, but just people that are really, really basically farming in their backyard.
Would it include fruit trees if you
Yeah,
had?
it includes fruit. The current language that we have in there
Yeah.
shows fruit.
Yeah, I did some rough measurements and I was including the home, actually. I was subtracting the home side. In my neighborhood, and I went around to those who had, huge significant garden areas, and none of them would have qualified, so I don't think it's gonna be many that qualify, so it's kind of a moot point, but. I don't know, it makes us feel like we're following. The mandate.
Yeah, I suppose as a kind of a reminder also to Counselor Garrett's question the other day, or a few minutes ago about not finding other policies nearby. Remember that this came about because of a bill that just passed this year. And the language from the bill is what it requires the city to do. And again, it doesn't give any details about how, but it says the city must consider urban farming that improves food security, reduces pollution, and creates green spaces in setting rates. So that's what the mandate is. Okay, open to your interpretation.
Yeah, like, like somebody selling native plants, is that farming? I don't know. I always consider farming food, consumption, but whatever. I think this is gonna be a very minimal impact overall, but it'll help a few people, I guess. I just don't see it helping most people with kind of a big garden in their yard, based on my anecdotal evidence, so. But it'll help the local food, urban, what are we calling it? Cooperative garden, it'll help that. I guess it helps these guys, so.
Yeah, so here's another example. The lot size actually on this one is incorrect. We just messed up on that one. So this was actually about a 0.83 acres. So their lot size is about 36,000 square feet. Again, we just did a quick calculation just based on aerial imagery. So they meet the minimum of that garden area. You can see their annual bill with the credit applied to that as well. So we were trying to find a happy medium between 25%, but this lot, a 25% would mean a very large garden. So not that 5,000 square feet isn't very large.
The 5,000 is good, because I remember, this might be his house, I can't tell. I remember this guy, Jim Robertson, that I went and met with, and we calculated it, and he would have had to have around 10,000.
Right, if it was 25%.
Yeah, and that was subtracting the home area. But with the 5,000, he'll qualify. He will qualify, and I think worthy of the exemption. So. Yeah.
So just for reference too, I just did a quick check. If they had the discount applied, would be about a 6% increase for this, their yearly thing. So it'd be pretty darn close to.
It's something.
Yeah. And then, so the last one, we actually looked at the Franklin Garden. We put this one on there because, no one really, the city owns it. This one actually never reaches tier 3, even though it meets the garden area and or sorry, the minimum square footage, it actually never hits never exceeds tier 2. So you can see this one actually wouldn't qualify for the credit, but because it uses so little water, their bill's actually going to be less than it was last year. So that's one of the reasons why we were looking at that, saying if they never reach tier 3,
Right, they're getting it
then
back to
these different rates are actually going to save some money. So that's just another example that we showed there. So that's the last slide that I had. We just wanted to bring this forward to you to show you what the proposed policy would be. I guess we want to hear what your thoughts are and if we want to move forward with it.
Any questions from Barry?
Just, no question. It just seems like this is a great place to start. I would say let's start here, and what do we learn in the first year?
Yeah, well, I apologize for being late coming into it. So I just wanted to go back over the justification for doing the credit in the December month. I can understand from your billing point of view, that way you can verify that they hit tier 3 and everything. But it does mean that the time at which they have to pay the bill is, they have to pay the full amount, right? They don't get the credit then when it would be useful to them. That delay seems like it could be hard.
Just in time for Christmas.
Just in time for Christmas, yeah. That is the nice thing about it.
I think it's generous
Yeah.
that we can do it, so.
Yeah, the main purpose there was just to make sure that we have ample enough time to actually make sure they hit that
Yeah.
reach tier 3.
But they qualify.
Yeah.
You have a question comment though. I know some people do their utilities on an equal pay system. So is water one of those ones that we allow to do on an equal? Gary's like, yes, okay.
I'm pretty sure.
So after the first year, then it'll be figured into their monthly bill if they do the equal pay system. So I guess that is one thing
That
that I
could
would
level it.
tell you. That I would tell any constituent or anybody, if you really are having a pinch point during those summer months, then you probably want to look at that equal pay. Right, Gary? That's gonna be figured into that 24-month equal pay. Okay.
Yeah, and we'd have to work with customer service, but they said applying credits are pretty easy to do.
All right.
Thank you for working on this. I know we gave you lots of useful and non-useful things leading up to this.
We need to
Thank
make
you.
a motion about the.
Them coming back in a year, we
I was-
probably should.
Yeah, I was just gonna say real quick, the proposed ordinance language for the fee schedule, you'll see there is exhibit A. There was mention of adding a report, or you could put that in code, or you could just request it from Public Works. I don't know if there's something you're more or less comfortable with. But either way, if you want them to come back, and I'm assuming staff could work with, council staff could work with Public Works on a timeline, following the credit, giving them ample time to get all of that information so that they could come back and report on how many ratepayers actually received the credit, et cetera. So I don't know if there's more comfort in having it in code so that it lives somewhere and isn't forgot about, or if you just wanna, staff can make note, we can ask for them to come back in a year and make an update then.
Well, and I would like to know, like, how many people apply who don't meet these qualifications? Maybe they're at like 20%, and if they feel like the level that we set it at is just not right to accomplish the purpose, right? And we won't know until we have people starting to ask about it, but then I think we could fine tune it and make it more useful.
It's a start. You did a good job.
We still haven't answered your question though, have we?
So, yes, that's okay. Sounds like if you're comfortable. Council staff, we can work with Public Works just to plan a future report to come back, and then at that point, we can
That'd be great.
add some to code.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Let's do that.
I like that accountability for us so that we can see what we've done and if it's actually worthwhile. And then fix it or get rid of it if it wasn't.
I prefer the accountability with Gordon though.
Yes, well,
I'm just kidding.
No, listen, I think the really thing we need to look at is how many bushels of tomatoes we produce out of Provo every year. I was just telling you, I'm a big fan of summer tomatoes and not these store-bought winter jobs. And so if that increases substantially through, then we have done the job we're looking to do. So that's.
Well, Dave Chipley used to always bring a big bunch of tomatoes in every year, so.
That's what we need. So I'm just, I think we want to report back and we looked specifically at some examples that were given to us and we wanted to make sure those work. And so if there's other examples you're hearing that we just wanted to make sure it worked for everybody. So that's the goal.
Hey, Gordon, 2 questions. Number 1, are you gonna go count everybody's tomato bushels in the city?
That's something I've actually put time to, so. These urban gardens all have to include tomatoes, that will be a checklist. So.
Question number 2, how did Gary get out of presenting this to us?
But listen, he had other things to do, and so he was one that prepared the thing, so we thought, let's make very good blame for it, so no.
how will we tell people to apply for this?
We'll put it in the water bill notice. I think that's the way we intend to do it. We may, I don't know that it's so big that we do any other kind of campaign, but I think when we tell about the water bill, we'll try to inform them about if you have an urban garden and put some criteria to it. But if there's more we need to do, we're certainly more than happy to shout whatever might help.
Speaking of report, since Gordon is here, can we request a report on the water line repair on Center Street or not, since it's not on the agenda? If we're not taking action or.
Yeah, I mean, you're not taking,
Brian.
yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of outside of your jurisdiction. Yeah, I was gonna say probably the best thing to do would be just end the meeting.
Oh, okay.
And then Gordon can stay around and answer some questions.
Okay. All right, great, thank you. If there's no objection, then we'll now adjourn the Provo Municipal Council meeting by unanimous consent.
What did you want to do?
Hold it on the water.
Recording stopped.